r/AskMen. Amphibian Effective 11 says, where are the great women? So do guys actually feel there aren't any good women left? Female here, this is OBV. In reference to hetero relationships, I've seen a lot of guys say that they struggle to find good women. Please help me understand this. I feel there are so many great single women, even that I only know a few single guys period. When we filter for great guys, the number reduces even more. I hear women all over talk about this. Do guys feel that this is not true? 2. What would a good woman be in your books? Of course, not niche preferences. 3. Do you actually feel there aren't many great women? Or were the comments on this anomalies? Lol, thanks. Coconut Salad says, honestly, I just want to find a woman that wants an equal relationship, that has mutual effort, mutual affection, mutual support, and building an emotionally supportive environment for both of us. Apparently that's really hard to find. Lankipanza says, it's so hard to find. So many women expect a guy to do and be everything. I mean, flip. Nowadays we are going to the same schools, getting the same degrees, and dealing with the same awful job market, yet so many women still expect a traditional provider as well as a lover and best friend. We are having just as much as a hard time in life as they are, so I don't think expecting equal effort and enthusiasm in a relationship is too much to ask. Especially in the dating phase, where the tone is being set. Totally agree that men just want their significant other to be an equal, not a trophy, and certainly not a princess. Another huge issue is that no one wants to work on things anymore when there are so many perceived options. There will always be more options. Finding someone who realizes that is hard. Jackman97 says, it made more sense to expect men to do everything in like the 40s 50s, but these days with how much they say they don't need men, there is not much excuse. Poptatwith says, I do think most people in general, men and women, are at least decent human beings who either are good or have the potential to be good people. However, I do not think most people would be good partners. It wouldn't make sense for most people to be good partners, since everybody is looking for certain aspects that other people prioritize or see differently. Also, I see a trend of people who want a relationship so bad, but they do not have any ambition to work on themselves to get it. They just want to be loved for free. Just my 2 cents. Zelausadil Force 10 says, think you are right on this. Maybe if the whole world made it easier for two people who like each other to get to know one another. Instead of jealous people staring or getting in the middle, things wouldn't be so bad. There probably been times girl passed on guy cause her friends didn't approve, or boy a girl cause she was a little chubby. Loki0111 says, the issue with women tends to be more in the attitudes, expectations, and demands of the men they date these days. There are lots of women who range from meta very attractive that I wouldn't date. They just come off as entitled and out to lunch about what they are expecting from a partner, at least they do to me. That said, when I've been looking, I've always been able to find someone relatively easily if I put the effort in, but it does require quite a bit of filtering. But there are literally thousands of single guys on the dating apps. In fact, there are more men than women on almost all of them. It's not a shortage of men at all. It's a shortage of the men most women have decided they want and feel they deserve. Women frankly have higher standards than men do on average. That creates the supply and demand issue they experience. New Caterpillar 1937 says, perhaps most of the men women would want have forsaken dating apps. Dating apps truly are brutal for men in my own experience. Hefty Contact 7438 says, yup, the abundance of options the majority of women have creates a sense of entitlement, and that mentality leads to awful behavior and narcissistic traits. Hence that is why generally speaking there really isn't any good women left really. Normal upstanding guy says, there's tons of wonderful women out there. But I'll be, frick, ed if I'm gonna give what little I have left to 100 bad ones on my search for them. Better off staying home with my cat watching The Grinch. Kitten with Or at 19 says, this is how I feel about dating as a woman. I'm happy to just kinda live my day-to-day life, work, spend time with family and friends, indulge in my hobbies. I know who I am and what I can offer. It's okay for others not to see it or not be interested. But I'm definitely done chasing after the opposite sex. r/AskMen. Something Light 43 says, men of Reddit, how much, if any time do you just sit in the dark with just your thoughts? Dina Banks II says, whenever I struggle to sleep, which around this time of year is a lot. No Comfort 5040 says, when I can't sleep. Large Monk 69 says, when I can't sleep. Kyle Sadly says, at some point I do it every day for a while. Dressus 19 says, I run from my thoughts. Are you, fricking crazy? Crazy says, quite often. Especially as I've gotten older and just thinking of times past and family. I also go to the cemeteries often too. Sad 6 Owl says, at least once a week I take a nap on my day off, and that nap starts off with me laying down in the dark and letting my brain off the chain for 30 minutes or more. Some days I don't actually even get any sleep, but instead just lose a couple of hours in the dark, no stimulus, just working through my thoughts. Tattooed Catcher says, more often than one would think often, when I can't sleep. Felcher 650 says, commute. Rich Brabres says, every time my GF leaves the house. Chalkuts says, whenever possible. It's so rare to have my silence and darkness anymore. It's a blissful peace I wish I could soak in for days. Testicules says, sit in the dark. Never, unless you count the 20 minutes trying to fall asleep at night. Edit, I have an Adirondack chair on my deck that I'll sit out in on warm nights and even colder nights with the appropriate layers. But that's to enjoy nature and stare at the stars. Edin Zico 98 says, every single night it could last for 3 hours until I fall asleep. Zinxingting says, I do this more often than I'd like to admit. Each day after work, I sit in the quiet for probably 5 or 10 minutes, then I turn on the TV and continue on with life. Wild Court says, every night when I lie in bed, either alone or when she's asleep. Hopeful Lab 840 says, every couple of weeks I sit outside in the dark with only my thoughts and a cigar. Fennel Separate 5008 says, a lot. Typical Asian says, when I'm in the sauna after my gym sessions. Clears my mind and mental fog. Percyprius says, almost every night when I'm laying in bed. Avanza 1 says, most of the time. Bowling Ball Bag Bob says, every night when I try to sleep. Samidrank 1101 says, not often. Between work, self-studying/education, working out, friends, family, my spiritual life, hobbies etc. I don't prioritize sitting alone in the dark with my thoughts. I prefer to self-reflect during the day with writing if anything. Farign Film Fiend says, I meditated for 2 hours a day for 365 for 3 years watching thoughts flow by. Anondad05 says, almost nightly, sometimes it's in a hot bath and other times it's laying in bed trying to fall back asleep in the middle of the night. Broccoli Enthusiast says, most nights, because insomnia, although this past week it's been most days Christmas Eve I lay in the sofa for about 6 hours without looking at my phone or turning the TV on, then I ate dinner and went to bed and did the same. Just S0M3 guy says. I don't. I've been down in that hole and nothing good is in it. r/AskMen. Inkbob says. What's the most unexpectedly awesome thing you've learned or experienced that you wish someone had told you earlier about being a man? Hrodnand says. Developing discipline and self-control while learning to tolerate and deal with the uncomfortable will propel you to become the most masculine version of yourself in any area of life. Sketty Bandit says. You don't need flashy things to feel happy. Black Bobulus says. A little bit of effort to make ourselves look better, such as skincare, actually makes us stand out because most of guys don't care about it at all. Cold Camel 7 says. You can just say frick it and quit. Fantasys Mosaic says. If you find yourself, nobody will be able to hurt you. Animal Akbar says. Just because he's your father does not make him a good role model. Common Dragon 494 says. That we get erections for literally any reason. When we are too tired, when our blood sugar is too low, when we get an adrenaline rush. Literally, anything that requires the flow of blood to balance out the body. Wicked Wilder says. A lot of masculine things are really just aesthetic. I'm a naturally goofy freak. My default is friendly and joking around. As a teen into my 20s, I thought I should make a hard effort to be a real man. 1. Drink top shelf whiskey and scotch. 2. Joined a combat unit and volunteered for deployments. 3. Lifted like crazy, learned to fix engines, built houses with Habitat for Humanity. End result at middle ages, that I'm still a big friendly goofy frick that just knows how to do stuff. So just embrace your weird and learn to love yourself is my advice. Tweenione says. You command more power than you think. OK Technology 9488 says. Women will say anything to get what they want. Most men are trying to sleep with your girl. Nobody cares when a man isn't doing well. Funatical says. Learn to shut up. Especially when shit is going haywire. People assume you're thinking, and it gives them comfort. As their world falls apart, you are the rock. Godslayer 5658 says. Growing a beard is pretty cool, at least for me. Wish I started earlier. Pragila says. That I'm not supposed to be just a provider for myself. Broadpoint says. I took steroids and was 4 months away from meeting my wife. Haters will say that the only legitimate reason is to compete or have a card from life that says you're special, but I think the sheer amount of interest from women is more valuable than that. Some will do anything for a juicy roided out physique, and anyone who says otherwise is natty. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.